Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Music Theory Intermediates and Foundations. This will be sort of a joint episode as I go over figured bass and also chord inversions. If you're just interested in chord inversions, those will be off first and they'll start in just a second. If you are just interested in figured bass, you can go to this timestamp. We're going to take a look at this excerpt that was an ear training final for me when I was in college. We will first do the chord inversions and then we'll do figured bass. Now when I look at chord inversions, what I'm doing is I'm identifying every note in each stack and figuring out what the root is and what the lowest note is. If they're the same, then the chord is in root inversion. If they're not, I got to figure out what inversion it is in. So let's start at the beginning. I have the notes C, C, E flat, and G. Those are the notes of C minor. Then I have the notes F, C, F, A flat. Those are the notes of F minor. Then I have E flat, C, and G. Now, here's my first inversion. E flat is the lowest note of the chord, but it isn't the root of the chord. I got to figure out how to stack these three notes so that they would make a perfect stack of thirds. So with E flat on the bottom, even if I put G right here above it in the bass clef, there'd still be a break between G and the next C above. So E flat isn't the root. I have already used the notes C, E flat, and G right here when I made C minor. So in my mind, I already know that that's going to be C minor, but you could take the time to write all of your notes and try different combinations. So I've already got G here. What if I try and stack it as G, C, then E flat? Once again, I'll see that there's a space between G to C, so that can't possibly be it. But if I start my stack on C instead, and go E flat to G, now if I get rid of these, we can see that this is the perfect stack. So all of this to say that my chord here is C minor over E flat. That's what this chord is going to be. Now as I look at my next chord, I have the notes C, E flat, G, and then C again. So this chord is just C minor again in root position. It's important to note that my notes don't have to directly be in order of C, E flat, and G. As long as C is the bottom note and the root note, then I'm in root position. Okay, we got an interesting chord here. I've got B natural here, and D, G, and D. Now looking at G and D, and this is just how my mind works, you may find a different way to do this that works well for you, but for me, I look at this G and D, and I see that I'm just missing the note B in between them. And lo and behold, I've got B down here. So if I were to think about this B natural being placed right here instead, then I can see that this stacks and makes a G major chord. So this is going to be G major over B. Okay, and this is this would be our dominant 5 chord. That's why I get this little B natural in there. It's kind of fun. You'll see the note B natural pop up a couple of other times throughout this example. But let's keep going for the sake of time. C, C, G, E flat. Now this is an example of what I was talking about earlier, that your notes don't necessarily have to be in the order of the chord, because this is still just C minor in root position, but I go C to G first, and then E flat, which is a little bit unusual, but it's still C minor. All right, and then my next chord, E flat, C, G, C. We saw this one a little bit earlier over here. It just didn't have the other C, but nonetheless, it's still C minor over E flat. For my next measure, I have the notes G, E flat, G, and C. So this is our first C minor over G chord. I'm going to move these a little bit so we can see them next to each other. Now here's an interesting part of this song. These two notes G and G are dotted half notes, meaning they last for the whole 3 beats in this measure. But my soprano and my tenor voices, my top 2 for the treble and bass clef respectively, move again. So while this first chord is C minor over G, by these 2 notes moving down to the notes D and B, what I get is a G major chord. This is part of the reason why we use chord inversions, so that I can keep this bass note the same and have 2 different chords. Because first it's C minor over G, and then I go to G, which is a really cool motion. It sounds awesome. I'll play this example towards the end so you can hear how this sounds. All right, then let's keep going. We've got 4 measures left. So if I look at E flat, C, G, C, this is my C minor over E flat. Now in my mind, I'm starting to get used to kind of what C minor looks like, what G looks like. I mean, the vast majority of our chords have been either some kind of C minor or some kind of G. There's been one deviation from that with F minor, but everything else has been C minors and Gs, just in different inversions. So I'm starting to get used to kind of what these look like. So I've got E flat, C, and G. These are effectively actually the same notes that I just did here, but nonetheless, we'll mark it for clarity's sake. C minor over E flat, and then F, C, F, A flat. Here's that F minor chord again, and because F is my bottom note, it will just be in root position, so we got F minor there. And then we have A flat, F, C, and F. So this is going to be F minor, but over that A flat, because A flat is my lowest tone, but the chord is F minor. And then we got 3 chords left. G, G, C for my bass part. Wonderful classic resolution here, okay? So I've got G, G, C, E flat. This is C minor over G. And then I've got G, G, B natural, D. This is G major, and that takes us home to C, E flat, C. Now, this last chord's a little bit unusual in that we don't have the note G, but we don't need G to totally express C minor. I can tell that it's C minor because I have C as my root, and then E flat, right? If this was C major, it would be C and then E natural. In either C major or C minor, I'd have G as the top. So let me play all the way through the example so you can kind of hear what this sounds like. Classic. All right. So, my figured bass people, if you are back or if you're interested in trying to learn figured bass, up on the top, I have all of the chords realized in their regular chord inversions, how I'd probably see this in sheet music nowadays. I find, even with figured bass, that it's really helpful to start with this step anyway. If my chord is in root position, meaning that there isn't any slash saying it's over something, then it's just going to be whatever chord it is. Now down below, I wrote these notes out so that we could identify what they are in Roman numerals. So anytime I see the note C, it's going to be the 1 chord. If I see a D chord, it's the 2 diminished. If I see the 3 chord, it'll be my major 3. This would be if I built an E flat major. This will be a minor 4 for F. G, in this case because I have B natural, will be a major 5 chord. A flat would be my major 6. B flat my major 7, and then I'm back home to my 1 chord. So what I'll do first is go through and just identify which, wrong button. I'll identify which chord they are. So for C minor, that's my 1 chord. And because it's in root position, I don't need any other figured bass notation. I just say that it's the 1 chord. Then for F minor, that is my 4 chord. And again, I just need to call it the 4 chord because it's in root position. Now we have our first inversion. This is C minor over E flat. Okay? When the third of the chord is in the bass, that's a first inversion chord. So this is going to be the 1 chord because it's C minor, but then I'm going to use the notation 6 because I need a 1/6 chord to make this the proper notation for figured bass, because I need a 6th between the root of my chord or the lowest tone of my chord and the root. Then as I move on, my next chord is once again just C minor, so that's my 1 chord. Now G over B. Okay, so this is going to be my major 5 chord. And again, the third of my chord is in the bass, so this is a 5/6 chord. Yeah. C minor, just a regular minor 1 chord. C minor over E flat, we talked about this one before as well. This is my 1/6 chord. Now C minor over G, this is a different one. Now I have the 5th of my chord in the bass, so this is going to be a 6/4 inversion. This is a second inversion chord, so it's 1/6/4. And that takes me to G, which is my 5 chord. So I can just put 5, and that one's in root position, so that one's just 5. And then I go back to C minor over E flat. That was our minor 1, 6, because E flat's in the bass. This next chord is the same, so minor 1 over 6. F minor was our 4 chord, and now I've got F over A flat. A flat is the 3rd, so that means that this is a 4 with the 6, because it's a first inversion chord. The 3rd of the chord is in the bass. Then I have C minor over G. We did that one right here. That's a 1, 6, 4 chord. G was my 5 chord, and we're back to our 1 chord at the end. Now, for my figured bass people, just in case you didn't hear it, I'm going to play through the example once so you can hear what that sounds like. Now, to me, this felt pretty fast. If you have any questions, please do leave them in the comments below. I was kind of running through it really quick to make sure that the video didn't go too long. If you would like maybe a shorter example where I dive a little bit deeper into either the figured bass or the chords, or maybe both, do let me know in the comments below. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. If maybe there's a certain passage of a song that you're interested in me analyzing, I'd be happy to find a way for you to send that to me, and then I could analyze it for everybody on the channel. But other than that, I hope that you got something out of this and that you can understand how to read chords, read chord inversions, and apply figured bass to that. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. As always, I look forward to working with you to build your skills from the ground up.